Hey there, everybody. It's Corey from The Abundant Artist. Today I am here with Rebecca Rhodes from Pennsylvania in the US. Rebecca is a watercolor painter and teacher who runs a series of successful online watercolor classes. I'll let Rebecca talk about herself a little bit here in a second, but I just wanted to share like how we met. So one of the cool things about having a mailing list of artists like we do at The Abundant Artist is there'll be people who lurk on our list for some amount of time. It might be a few months, it might be a couple years. And then I sent an email out saying it was like a survey up after a class sign up, and I just sent it to a segment of our list saying, "Hey, why didn't you sign up for this class?" And Rebecca emailed back and said, "I don't need your class. Everything's going great." And I was like, awesome. So would you be willing to come on Facebook Live and talk a little bit about it on our podcast? So Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love to have you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself as an artist. Tell us about your background as a teacher and how you ended up teaching online art classes.
Okay. It's not here with you because back when I started, now we're breaking up a little bit. Are we okay? Okay. So, okay. I became a full-time artist in 2015 when I retired from teaching. I taught public school music for 27 years and never had time to do anything else. Took a sabbatical in 2012 to get a master's. But then there was time to do something else too, in addition to studying. So I thought, you know, always in the back of my head, I wanted to try to paint. Never did it before. And so I thought, okay, how about watercolor? It's cheaper, easy cleanup. Got on Google, looked up how to paint in watercolor, did tons of research, and realized that I was hooked on it, completely hooked. And from there, I went back and taught for 2 more years, and I love teaching, love it. But I just wanted to paint all the time. And eventually that just started taking over everything, like my brain. And I went home one day and I told my husband, I said, I want to retire. And he said, okay. And I retired and became a full-time artist in 2015, and then had to figure out how to do it all because I had no idea. I mean, by then I knew I was a pretty good artist because I started doing commissions and started posting stuff on Facebook, and people were liking what I was doing. But I had no idea how to start selling the art or how to make a living doing this. I retired from teaching, but I retired early, so I'm not getting my pension yet. So our salary's cut in half. And we said, okay, we're going to give it a year and a half. And if this doesn't work in a year and a half, I'll go back to teaching again. Thank God it worked.
That's awesome. So I'd love to hear a little more about it. I was telling Rebecca before we started the broadcast that you know, her family is so full of creative people. Like, you've got family members who are artists, you're a musician. There's all this artistic creativity in your family. And I just think that's so cool because my family is just, you know, very different skill sets, very different backgrounds from that. I'm the weird sport who was like, I'll go do artistic things. And everybody else in my family is either like a laborer, like welders and laborers and stuff like that. So I was the first person in my family to go to college and do any of that kind of stuff. So I think it's really neat when you come from a family like that. I would love to hear from you sort of how having that kind of a family informed your mindset and thought going into your teaching career, as well as, I guess, your second teaching career.
Well, first of all, my family, they were always super supportive of the first career and the second career, like always, like your number one cheerleaders. And I appreciate that. Growing up, my father was a music teacher and an art teacher. So there's always music in the house. And in 5th grade, I used to draw cartoons and things like that when I was younger. But in 5th grade, that's when they start teaching you the instruments. And we had a trumpet sitting around the house.
Mhm.
So I picked up the trumpet, ended up being pretty good at it. And that was it for the rest of my school career. Band, choir, not a lot of time for art. I was a high school art editor, but that's about it. Went to college for music. And as a music teacher, there's not a lot of time for much else. It's a time-consuming job. So,
Right.
am I answering your question? Sometimes
You are, yeah,
And-
absolutely. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people that are watching live. Marsha Ann's watching live. Bassett Artworks watching live. So I know there's a bunch of people. Eric, Joe, Sierra, Julie, Steve. Thanks so much for joining us, y'all. It's fun to do these casual conversations every once in a while with artists and kind of see where they're coming from. So Rebecca, as you were making the transition from a long experience teaching music offline to teaching painting online, what were the major challenges that you had? Because a lot of artists, last year I wrote an article for Professional Artist Magazine about artists who are making a great living teaching online art classes. And one of the things that came up a lot was how do you physically teach painting online? And if you're an experienced teacher, how do you make the transition from teaching offline to teaching online? So I'd love to hear
I taught
your thoughts there.
Music technology, and that helped. So I feel confident with editing video, but it's easy. You don't let that stop you from wanting to do this. It's something you can easily learn. Music technology is, have you ever heard of GarageBand? That's basically what we did. It's a music editing program. And we taught students how to compose on the computers. And we did some video in there too. So this is something I always wanted to do and just never had time. So that just went right into the online teaching. As far as just discovering online teaching, is that what you're asking also? Okay.
Yeah, like how did you discover it, and what were the challenges then going from, because when you're in person, you can like see people's reactions and you can physically like take their hand and show them something, but when you're teaching online you can't. So what were how did you make those adjustments? I took a
course from Anna Mason, an online course, and she does botanical work, and I just kind of borrowed her ideas, and it came pretty easy. I used my phone board and I set it like this, and I just record myself painting. And I think it's because I did it as a teacher, I didn't run into a lot of difficulties. I think you're going to have to hit me with some questions to help me, get more specific. It was so much fun. Editing.
It's just really
it was an easy transition, and I think it's because I did it, as a teacher.
Right. What kind of tools are you? So you're using your iPhone to? Is it an iPhone or is it something else?
Samsung Galaxy. Is that it? Okay.
Samsung Galaxy. Okay, yeah. So you're using the Samsung Galaxy to record your videos and your audio. How are you doing the editing?
I found a very inexpensive program called Filmora. Are you familiar? Yeah.
Filmora.
Like I started
no, never
so cheap, everything. And I figure eventually I'll probably move to, is it Camtasia? Yeah, they'll probably move to that next. But right now I'm really happy with Filmora. It's pretty inexpensive. And I use Audacity, which is a music editing free program to do noise reduction.
Yep.
And that's
right. Okay, interesting. That's pretty much it. So I've used Audacity a little bit. So you just throw the audio in there, and there's like a noise reduction feature in Audacity that you do a couple of clicks, and it removes all of like the white noise in the background.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Very cool. So then you compile that together and throw that on
yeah,
YouTube.
And it's time consuming. That's the biggest thing. You can create a painting in a couple of days, but it takes about 2 weeks to edit, at least 2 weeks to edit the video, with cutting and pasting and adjusting the sound. And then you have to download it, and it just takes a long time. But it's fun.
Interesting.
But you got to give yourself time to do it.
Okay. Right. So you're doing these videos on YouTube, and I noticed on your YouTube channel, you've got about 7,000 subscribers. You get a lot of people just following you to find what's what I'm looking for, like suggestions on how to. You got all these specific tutorials on specific subjects, like how to paint a detailed dog, right? And I think there's even like videos about specific breeds of dogs.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're doing all of these specific tutorials, and you're giving away like, are they simple tips, or are you really going like, is each free YouTube video like an in-depth tutorial on how to do?
It's the entire tutorial sped up.
Mm-hmm.
Sped up 10 times. So I figure, if you like it, then come over to my online school and learn how to. That's what I do. I say, come to the online school, and you can see it in real time. And I get a lot of people from YouTube. What's it called? A sales funnel? I funnel them from YouTube. Yeah. Mostly YouTube.
Okay. All right. Okay. So then what made you decide to use Teachable as your teaching platform instead of just like embedded videos from YouTube or something like that?
It's 2016 and I'm not making money. And I'm starting to get a little worried. So I find this artist. I'm on YouTube all the time and researching. I find Angela Fehr, Fehr. She's a watercolor artist. She's talking about how she teaches online and how she uses Teachable. And I'm like, oh my goodness, here I am, a teacher. It just seems like, why didn't I think of this before? So I looked up Teachable. I did a lot of research on it, and I saw mostly good things. And I know there's other platforms out there, but I just decided, you know what? I like what I'm seeing on Teachable. It's a platform where you can place your videos, and they won't do any kind of with advertising. You have to do your own advertising, but they'll take care of all the technical stuff. And they're letting you put your videos on their platform. And that's how I chose them. I know there's others out there, but I didn't even look at anything else. I looked at lots of reviews, and I'm happy with Teachable.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about. So most of your students come from YouTube. Is that
most of them come from YouTube? It's starting to pick up now with Pinterest and Facebook, but still, I think the most are YouTube.
Okay. And how are people finding you on Pinterest? Are you posting the same tutorials on Pinterest, or are you doing something else?
I took a course, a Pinterest. I didn't take a course, but I've been studying up on how to advertise on Pinterest. So I've created a bunch of different boards, all having to do with watercolor. And one of them is my board that it's got all the YouTube videos on there, and it'll take you to YouTube. Right.
So people are coming, like they find you on Pinterest, and then they click on the videos there, watch them on YouTube, and then they find you, and then from YouTube, they'll click over to your classes.
That's what I hope they do. Yes. That's what I want.
Excellent. All right. So why are you using YouTube instead of like Pinterest or Facebook?
YouTube.
Or excuse me, Instagram or Facebook.
YouTube. That's where I get the most reaction, it seems like. That's where people seem to be coming from the most. When I started on YouTube too, way back. Even Facebook is just, you never know if people are seeing your posts on Facebook. I feel like I can't quite trust, you know what I mean? So I'm not.
So you've noticed that you're getting more like easier attention and traction on YouTube.
Absolutely. And on Instagram. It seems like people see my work on Instagram more than Facebook. Again, Facebook is good too. Pinterest is good too, but YouTube seems to be the one where the most engagement. That's the word, engagement.
Excellent. So okay, so you're on Teachable, and you used it because you found it and you didn't need to like look for any other options. So how are things going? How's the business? What does your business look like right
So
now?
what I do is offer a subscription plan. So for $20
Hmm.
a month, you can paint anything in my school. And I have a goal, a certain number of subscribers. When I achieve that goal, I'll be earning a good living. And I'm about halfway there. So it's a very
Hmm.
slow process. It's
Hmm.
not going to happen right away, but very slowly it's growing in subscribers. I have a really big email list. And then out of that email list, probably 10% purchase. Um, so as long as it keeps going up, and it's slowly going up, and I know that I'm going to,
Hmm.
people join and they leave, and that's all part of it. But so far so good. I'm thinking in a year and a half I'll be where I want to be financially. Now I
Nice.
don't rely on
Yeah, that's
just the
fantastic.
school for I mean, I do other
Hmm.
things, but it that's a large part of my income.
What other things are you
I do
doing?
commissions. I do one-on-one
Hmm.
tutoring online. Like if
Hmm.
someone wants to learn how to paint their dog, like a specific dog. So we do it,
Hmm.
online. I attend some shows selectively, some art shows. Uh, what else do I do?
How do you pick the shows that you
Well,
attend?
back when I first retired, I experimented and I did a lot of research on
Hmm.
shows, and I went to a couple small ones and I learned how to do it. And then I thought, you know what? I don't think I can do this full time. It's a lot of work, but okay. So to answer your question, what I do is I find artists who live in my area
Hmm.
and I look at what shows they go to, because then I know they're good. And
Sure.
I audition to get into those shows. So I pick the best
Okay, so
ones.
you're paying attention to what other artists are
Yeah, I
doing.
mean, you have to. It seems like it just makes sense to do that. So I have a couple favorite artists whom I admire, and I try out.
Hmm.
You have to. A lot of these are called juried. You have to go in and kind of audition, and if they'll accept me,
Sure.
I know they're good shows, and I know I can make money at them. And being an artist
Nice.
is it's a solitary thing, and that was hard for me being a teacher. So it's nice to get out. It's nice to get
Right.
out and do shows. So I do maybe 4 a year, and little by little,
Nice.
I'll probably do more and more. And that's a whole other
Hmm.
side. It's fun because, like, one part of this is teaching. So I'm doing mostly in the online school. I'm doing what people want, which is how to paint a pet portrait. But then
Right.
in the shows, people don't really want to buy, like, pet portraits unless it looks like their
Right.
pet. So I do other paintings of wildlife, and also sheet music art. I just take old pieces of
Hmm.
sheet music and paint on them, and people seem to like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were still doing
Hmm.
the sheet music art, so I'm glad
Yeah,
to hear you are, because that's
yeah, it
pretty
keeps things
cool.
interesting and fun, and you got different ways to bring the money in, so you don't have to rely on just
Excellent.
one thing.
Excellent. Well, if somebody is at the very beginning and they're like, I think I'd like to teach, but I'm not sure what I would teach or how to get started, how would you recommend they get
Okay, if
started?
they're not sure what to do,
Hmm.
well, I mean, what is your favorite thing to do? What are
Hmm.
you really passionate about? And that's the first thing. Like I really
Hmm.
painting animals. Um,
Hmm.
maybe you could take your phone and experiment on YouTube and see if you're getting interest in comments. It might take a couple months. That's what I did.
Sure.
And if it seems like people are really liking what you're doing, then this might be something that you might want to teach. And then research Teachable and Skillshare, and what are some others out there. Do the research.
Hmm.
And most of these platforms, these teaching platforms, you can try it for free. So what's the worst that can happen? you know, people maybe
Sure.
aren't interested in what you do. There's always somebody who's going to love what you do. That's the great thing about art, right? Don't you think?
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Rebecca, thank you so much for this quick conversation, and I think a lot of people will find it valuable to figure out, you know, how can they get started teaching. So I appreciate
You're
you taking
welcome.
the time. And we will have if you prefer audio or whatever, we'll have an audio version of up on this on the Abundant Artist podcast feed, which you can find on iTunes. And we'll also have a blog post up in the next week or two with a recap of this conversation, as well as links to some of the resources that Rebecca mentioned here. So again, Rebecca, thank you so much. And thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.